Alright YouTube, in this video we are going to see how to create this timer app using vanilla JavaScript. You can see these are the buttons. If you click on 5 seconds, the timer starts from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once it's done, you will see the animation popping up. Fine. This is what we are going to see. We are going to create in this tutorial, and to follow along I will leave the source code in the description so that we can continue together. Fine. If you click on 20, it will change to 20. If you click on 5, you can see the animation pops up along with the text completed shows up. So this is the link to get the source code, and this is the 24th JavaScript project. uh, to get the others, please follow the playlist. Fine. You in the zip file you'll get 3 files: HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Let's open the index.html. Let me remove all the script and start from scratch. Fine. Now let me explain you what the HTML is. So as the page loads, you can see it's a container, and inside that we have two divs, and these two div, one holds the heading and other holds the button. Fine. This is a heading and this is a button. Now each of them has an ID to it. Along with this h2, you can see this is the h1 timer, and this h2 will get show once the timer gets completed, and these are the buttons. Each of them has a click function which is timer, and I have passed a time to it which is seconds: 5, 10, 15 and 20. Fine. Now you can see I have linked the script tag in the bottom. Let's start the script. So I have written some of the steps. The first step is we are going to create a function. So when I click on the button, this function is going to get called. So let's create that function which is timer, and we are passing the second to it. So for that, let me pass the variable seconds. Fine. The next step is get current time using Date.now. To get the current time in millisecond format, we would be using date object, and it has a function now. And now let me console and log and show you. You will get the current time in millisecond format. If you check the console, we say there is an error. Let's see what it is. Let me save it. If I click on 5 second, nothing is showing. Yeah, you can see it's in the millisecond format. Now get the destination time from the functions parameter. The functions parameter is simply the seconds which we have passed. So that would be the destination. Let me store it into a variable called then. So I would be adding it with the current time. So let me show you both the time. Both the time will be in the millisecond format. As you know, 1 second is equal to 1000 milliseconds. Now the seconds is in seconds format. I'm converting it to millisecond by multiplying it with 1000. Now let me show you the now and then. Now both of them will be in the millisecond. If you click something, or if you run the function on the console, you can see 6 and 7. Let me make it 20. So you can see 7 and 9. Starting from 7 plus 20 equal to 9. Fine. Now get the difference of the destination and current time. To get the destination, we have to just make it minus. Then would be the biggest number. That's why I have written first. Pass the second. Now the difference is 1000 millisecond. If you make it 20 seconds, it will be 20 milliseconds. Fine, we are getting the difference. Now what we need is, we want this to be in the millisecond. This is in the millisecond already. Actually it is in the millisecond. Now what we want is, each second I want the value of it. So for that I would be using a function called setInterval. What setInterval does is, it will run the function every 1 second. And this seconds left, I want it to run every second. with the help of setInterval function. The first would be the function definition and the second one would be the millisecond. I will pass 1000 millisecond is equal to 1 second. So let me cut and paste it. Since the now variable hold the static data, each time you run a function it will be same. I have not consoled and logged it. Let me console and log the second left. As you know, the now holds the date.now. It is a static variable at present. So each time you are getting 2000 only. To make it dynamic, you would be using date.now over here. So each time the seconds will be incrementing. Now it's in the millisecond format. Now I'm going to convert it to second. To convert it into second, what you have to do is we have to divide it by 1000. Now if you see, we will get the value in decimal format. Now to ignore the decimal format, we would be using math function, math object. Math is an object, and inside that we have a function called floor. If you see 10, 7, 18, 17, 16, 15, yeah, it's running fine. Now create a function to calculate minutes and second. I'm going to create a function and I'm going to call it below the seconds left, and that function name would be calculate min seconds, and it would be passing the second left as a parameter. Let's define a function. Let's define the same function, and this function will be useful to get the minutes and second. Divide by 60. This is a millisecond. Actually this is a seconds. To get the minutes we would be dividing it with 60, and to get the millisecond we would be using mod 60. We would be getting the remainder as a variable in the seconds. We have used mod. Now let me log the message on console, minutes and second. Second would be working fine, but minutes will be in the decimal format. We are getting two values. Let me remove the first console. As I said, it's in the decimal format. To convert it, we have to use a math object, math dot floor. Fine. Now if we refresh it, again we are getting two values. Let me remove the first message, which console log. If we type 180, which is 3 minutes, and it's working fine. 2 minutes and 58 seconds left, 8 minutes and 57 seconds left. Now first value is skipped. You can see the first value is skipped. 180 is simply the 3 minutes, so the second value should be 2 and 59. The 2 and 59 is skipped, so for that I will be using the function, or I will be calling the function above the set interval. Now you can see 3 and 2.58. 2 and 58 is showing up. I think I made an error. Let me see what it is. We have to make it 2. We have to use the round here, and we have to use, again we can use the round here also. Now you can see 359, 358, 357, 356. It's working fine, but we are getting 2. We don't need to get 2. We had to get we are getting 3, but we need to get 2. So for that I would be using the floor function. Round and floor made an error. Fine, that's okay. Now pass the minutes and second value to HTML. Now the h1 holds 2 span tag with the ID min and sec. So we will be appending this variable inside the HTML. To get the HTML, we would be getting document.get element by ID, and we're passing the ID, and dot inner HTML will allow us to edit the HTML inside the span tag. Let's pass the variable, and again for the second, sec is the ID, pass the second variable over here. But now let me remove the messages. If you click on a button, now the click function would work. Now you can see the value 2 is in the single format. Convert the single digit with 2 digit by adding 0 in front. We need to add 0 in front, so for that we would be passing this variable inside a parameter. So as inside the parameter of function, which is add 0, let's create the add 0 function. We already have the number as a parameter. Now we are going to convert this number to string, and we are going to get the length of it. If the length is 1, we are going to return the number with 0 added in front as a string. Else just return the same number. If it is 2 variable, we don't have to modify it. If the length is 2, we don't have to modify it. That's what I'm saying. Now you can see there is an error. ToString is a function, not a property. And it would now work fine, starting with 3 seconds. Now you can see the single digit has converted to 2 digits. Now stop the set interval. Now before that, now we have to stop the set interval. Now if you refresh it and pass the 3 second, pass 5 second, if it is below 0, it will get the value minus. We have to stop this. We are going to stop the set interval when the second left reaches to 0. We have to use the if condition on the set interval. If the second left is equal to 0, we have to stop the set interval function. To stop the set interval function, we have to store the set interval function into a variable, and we would be using the variable called run every second. And with the help of clear timeout, we can stop the set interval by passing the variable which we have used to initialize the set interval. Now if it reaches below 5, it should stop at 0. It's not working. Let me see why. Actually, I made a mistake, which is I have to initialize the set interval, not the if it reaches to 0, it should stop at 0, but it is getting to minus value. You can see I should initialize the set interval. Fine, now it would work. If it reaches below 5, if it reaches below 0, it should stop. It's not working. Let me see why. It is simply because we have to paste this function above the condition. Once it reaches 0, I'm going to add a class. Add animate class to h1. To get the h1, we would be using document.getElements by tag name. I haven't used class or id on h1. Simply to call the first, we have to pass 0 and class list dot add, and we have to add the class which is animate. I have created it on css. It will give the scale and opacity. Fine. And then we will call this, and that will work now. Opacity and transform would be added. Now once it reaches, we are going to show the h2. Since the h2 I have styled, you can see display none. I have to make it display block. So we can call the h2 with the help of id, document.getElements, get element by id, and pass the id, and add the property style, add a property display, and make it block. Pass it into a quotes. Now it would work. If it reaches below 0, If it reaches 0, the animation would be applied to the heading and the text completed shows up. That's all for this video. That's all for this tutorial. Thank you so much for listening. Get the source code in the description, and this is the 24th JavaScript project.